Imagine having everything: wealth, status, a loving family, and a guaranteed future as the lord of the most prosperous territory in the kingdom. Now imagine watching all of it burn to ash in a single night. That's exactly what happened to our protagonist, Kaelen Vane. Welcome back to Fate Library, where today we are diving into an epic tale of betrayal, insane progression, and sweet, absolute revenge. We open on a scene of absolute carnage. The once glorious Vane estate, a beacon of justice in the Arcanum Kingdom, is completely engulfed in flames. Bodies of loyal guards litter the courtyard, their armor pierced by arrows bearing the crest of the Ironblood Coalition. The camera pans through the smoke to reveal Kaelen, a young man of 17, sprinting through the burning corridors. He's covered in soot and blood. His father, Duke Vane, had pushed him through a secret passageway, just moments before the Ironblood Knights breached their inner sanctum. Kaelen's ears are still ringing with his father's final words. "Survive, Kaelen. No matter what, you must survive." But survival isn't looking too great right now. Kaelen bursts out of the estate's hidden drainage pipe, only to find himself at the very edge of the kingdom. And by edge, I mean he is literally standing on the precipice of the Abyssal Wilds, a continent-spanning chasm filled with miasma and absolute darkness. A squad of Ironblood tracking hounds and elite assassins bursts from the tree line. Leading them is General Kael'kar, the lapdog of Duke Valerius. Kael'kar smirks, wiping blood off his blade. "End of the line, little lordling. Hand over the Vane family seal, and I promise to make your death quick." Kaelen realizes his family was butchered for political power. Kaelen grips the obsidian ring on his finger, the family seal. With a defiant, bloody grin, Kaelen flips Kael'kar the bird. "You want it? Come fetch it in hell." And without another word, Kaelen steps backward, plummeting off the edge of the cliff into the endless darkness of the Abyssal Wilds. Kael'kar rushes to the edge, cursing loudly as he watches the boy vanish. "Let the monsters have him," the knight sneers. As Kaelen free-falls through the pitch-black abyss, the sheer wind pressure tears at his clothes. The toxic miasma burns his lungs. He hits the thick canopy of giant, bioluminescent mushrooms, breaking his fall but shattering several ribs in the process. He crashes onto the damp, cold floor of the chasm. He is bleeding out, paralyzed from the pain, and completely alone. Just as a massive, multi-eyed spider rears up to take a bite out of his face, a sudden, piercing blue light erupts in his mind. Host is on the verge of death, extreme malice detected, initializing the Shadow Sovereign system. Kaelen gasps as a surge of freezing, dark energy violently forces its way into his veins. It knits his broken bones together with strands of pure shadow. The spider lunges, but before its fangs pierce Kaelen's throat, a spike of solid darkness shoots out of his shadow, impaling the beast. Kaelen slowly stands up, panting heavily. The air around him feels different. The oppressive miasma now feels like a warm blanket. Class awakened, Shadow Sovereign Mythic Grade. Title acquired, Lord of the Abyss. Passive skill, Abyssal Stealth. The smell of the dead spider has attracted a pack of bloodfang wolves, monsters roughly the size of pickup trucks. There are 6 of them. Active skill unlocked, Shadowy Bow, cost 10 mana per arrow. Damage scales with agility and shadow mastery. Without thinking, Kaelen reaches his left hand forward. The shadows on the ground ripple, rising up and solidifying into a sleek recurve bow. The alpha wolf lunges. Kaelen pulls back on the non-existent bowstring, and a glowing purple arrow forms instantly. He releases. The arrow doesn't just hit the wolf, it passes completely through its skull, burying itself deep into a stone wall. The other 5 wolves freeze. They turn to run, but Kaelen's eyes glow with a cold, ruthless light. "You wanted to eat me? You don't get to run," he mutters. He activates Abyssal Stealth and dissolves into the shadows. A shadow arrow erupts from the darkness of a giant mushroom cap, pinning one wolf to the ground. Then another arrow shoots. Within 30 seconds, all 6 wolves are dead. He steps out of a shadow without a single scratch. Skill unlocked, Shadow Extraction. You can resurrect deceased beings as loyal shadow soldiers. He walks over to the alpha wolf. He holds out his hand. "Arise," he commands. The shadows beneath the dead wolf begin to boil. They violently tear upward, ripping the shape of the wolf right out of the corpse. He quickly goes to the other 5 wolves and extracts them as well. 6 shadow wolves now stand at attention before him. With his new bodyguards, Kaelen begins exploring. They uncover a massive set of stone doors, engraved with glowing runes. Pushing the doors open, Kaelen steps into an absolutely massive underground cavern. It's an ancient, ruined city. Area discovered, the ruined city of Noctis. Would you like to claim this territory as your domain? The moment he hits yes, a wave of shadow energy washes over the entire city, lighting up ancient runic street lamps with ghostly blue fire. Duke Valerius, Kaelen mutters, you thought you ended my family, but all you did was give me the keys to an army. Suddenly the ground trembles violently. A roar echoes from the deep darkness of the abyss, so loud it forces Kaelen to his knees. Warning, a calamity-class monster has sensed the activation of Noctis. The abyssal armored bear is approaching. Recommended action, flee. Kaelen grits his teeth, drawing his shadowy bow. The shadows around him flare up. He isn't running anymore. Welcome back to Fate Library, where Kaelen Vane's vengeance is just getting started. If you thought falling into an endless abyss of monsters was going to stop him, you haven't been paying attention. When we last left our boy, he had just claimed the ancient, ruined underground city of Noctis, turning it into his personal domain. He had 6 shadow wolves at his command, a mythic-grade shadow sovereign class, and a massive chip on his shoulder. Everything was looking up, until a level 45 calamity-class abyssal armored bear decided to crash the party. Let's put this into perspective. Kaelen is level 3. In the upper world, a level 45 calamity-class monster requires an entire battalion of heavily armed knights to even scratch. This bear is the size of a 2-story house, covered in jagged, bone-like armor plating that glows with a sickening red light. And it is currently tearing through the entrance of Noctis, turning the ancient stone pillars into dust with casual swipes of its massive paws. The system is practically screaming at Kaelen with flashing red text. Warning, extreme danger, evacuate immediately. But Kaelen doesn't run. He looks at his 6 shadow wolves who are growling low to the ground. Then he looks at the ruined cityscape around him. This is his kingdom now, and a sovereign does not flee from their own throne room. Kaelen dismisses the warning screen with a flick of his wrist. All right, big guy, he mutters, drawing his shadowy bow. Let's see if that armor covers your insides. The bear spots Kaelen. It lets out a roar that physically shakes the cavern, causing stalactites to plummet from the ceiling. It charges, moving with a terrifying speed that defies its massive size. Kaelen activates Abyssal Stealth. Instantly, he melts into the shadows of a collapsed statue, just as the bear bulldozes through it, shattering the stone into a million pieces. Kaelen materializes on a balcony 20 feet above. He draws back his bow, the purple shadow energy condensing into an arrow. Thwip, the arrow strikes the bear directly in the spine. But instead of piercing, the arrow shatters against the bone armor with a loud clang. Target's defense is too high, attack ineffective. The bear turns its massive head, zeroing in on Kaelen's location. It doesn't even bother climbing. It just slams its paws into the base of the wall, causing the entire balcony to collapse. Kaelen freefalls, using his high agility to twist in midair and land gracefully in the shadows below. Okay, brute force isn't going to work, he thinks. He commands his 6 shadow wolves via a mental link. The wolves sprint out from the rubble, flanking the bear. They bite and tear at the beast's legs. To a normal creature, these shadow bites would induce frostbite and necrotic rot, but the bear's armor is too thick. The bear swipes its paw, obliterating 3 of the shadow wolves in a single hit. They burst into clouds of black smoke. Kaelen feels a sharp pang in his mana pool. He realizes quickly, as long as he has mana, his summons can regenerate. But he only has so much mana at level 3. He needs to end this fast. He studies the bear as his remaining 3 wolves keep it distracted. There has to be a weak point. He zooms in with his enhanced dynamic vision. And there it is. On the back of the bear's neck, right between the heavy shoulder plates, there is an old, jagged scar. Some other monster in the abyss must have wounded it in the past. It's a gap no bigger than a coin. That's his target. But hitting a coin-sized target on a thrashing, 2-story tall rage monster is impossible from the ground. Kaelen needs height, and he needs the bear to stay still. Kaelen steps out of the shadows, revealing himself. "Hey, over here, you overgrown rug," he shouts. The bear's eyes lock onto him, glowing with pure malice. It ignores the wolves and charges Kaelen, opening its massive jaws to swallow him whole. Kaelen doesn't run, he waits. 50 feet, 30 feet, 10 feet. At the very last possible millisecond, Kaelen drops backward into the shadow. The bear bites down on empty air, its momentum carrying it forward so hard it crashes face first into the unyielding, obsidian wall of the cavern. The impact stuns the bear. For just 1 second it freezes. Kaelen teleports out of a shadow cast on a ledge directly above the beast. He points his bow straight down. He doesn't just form one arrow, he channels every single drop of his remaining mana into the bow. The purple light turns a deep, void-like black. The air around the arrow warps. Skill, overcharged shot activated, mana depleted. Before Kaelen takes this shot, you know what you need to do. Overcharge that like button, subscribe to Fate Library, and hit the bell icon. Kaelen releases the bowstring. The overcharged shadow arrow doesn't just fly, it acts like a laser beam of pure destruction. It strikes the exact center of the scar on the back of the bear's neck. There is no clang this time. The arrow punches through the scar tissue, tearing down into the beast's spinal cord and detonating inside its chest cavity with a muffled boom. The massive abyssal armored bear stiffens. Its glowing red eyes flicker, and then, slowly, the 2-story behemoth collapses, hitting the ground with an earth-shattering thud. Silence falls over the ruined city of Noctis. Kaelen drops from the ledge, his legs trembling from the sheer mana exhaustion. He lands next to the giant corpse. And then the system goes absolutely crazy. You have slain an abyssal armored bear, LV, 45, incredible feat, level up, level up, level up. The notifications ping back to back, ringing in Kaelen's ears like a jackpot slot machine. He jumps from level 3 all the way to level 15 in a matter of seconds. His fatigue instantly vanishes as his body is flooded with level-up energy. His muscles become denser, his vision sharper, and his mana pool expands exponentially. You are now level 15, 60 free stat points awarded, shadow extraction capacity increased to 50. Kaelen grins, a feral, terrifying smile. He allocates his stats evenly between agility, mana, and authority. He then walks up to the massive head of the dead bear. "You put up a good fight," Kaelen whispers. "Now fight for me, arise." The shadows in the cavern absolutely erupt. The darkness forms a literal tornado around the bear's corpse. The bones crack and shift. From the inky blackness, a gargantuan shadow beast pulls itself upright. It retains the bone armor, but the armor is now obsidian black, glowing with blue runes. Extraction successful. Commander Tier Shadow acquired, Abyssal Armored Bear LV 45. Kaelen looks up at the massive shadow beast. "I'm going to call you Goliath," he says. Goliath Shadow Bear lets out a low, rumbling growl of obedience. But Kaelen knows that a king is nothing without a functioning kingdom. The ruined city of Noctis is safe for now, but it's a mess of rubble. The system's kingdom-building interface shows that his city level is still 1. To upgrade it, he needs materials: abyssal stone, mana crystals, and iron. For the next week, Kaelen turns the surrounding Abyssal Wilds into his personal farming ground. He and Goliath Shadowbear lead raids into the nearby monster dens. We get a montage of absolute domination. Kaelen simply sits back on a high ledge, sniping the alphas with his shadow-weave bow, while Goliath Shadowbear tanks everything on the ground, literally swatting lesser beasts into the walls. Every monster they kill gets added to the army. Kaelen extracts venomous shadow snakes, giant abyssal bats for aerial reconnaissance, and heavy-hitting rock golems. His army swells to maximum capacity, 50 shadow soldiers, and the loot they gather is immense. They clear out an abandoned dwarven mine nearby. Returning to Noctis, Kaelen opens his kingdom interface. Resources sufficient. Would you like to restore the blacksmith and outer walls? Kaelen hits confirm. Magic circles the size of football fields appear on the ground. The shadow laborers get to work, rapidly assembling the materials. Before Kaelen's eyes, the crumbling stones of the city walls reconstruct themselves, forming a towering, impenetrable barrier of black iron and stone. In the center of the city, an ancient forge roars to life with blue fire. City level upgraded to level 2. Blacksmith unlocked. Kaelen smiles. His kingdom is actually taking shape. He isn't just surviving, he is thriving in a place where humanity thought he would die in minutes. But his moment of peace doesn't last. A sharp beep echoes in his mind. The system's minimap interface suddenly flashes red. Kaelen opens the map. At the very edge of the map, near the upper entrance to the abyss, several small, white dots have appeared. These aren't monsters. Monsters show up as red dots. White dots mean humans. Kaelen zooms in on the map. The system identifies the intruders. Warning, human incursion detected. Entity, Ironblood Mercenary Scouting Party. Average level, 20. Kaelen's eyes narrow. Duke Valerius wasn't taking any chances. He sent an elite team of trackers down into the upper layers of the abyss. They are looking for his body, and more importantly, they are looking for the Vane family seal. The Kaelen standing in the throne room of Noctis, flanked by a level 45 commander bear and an army of 50 shadow monsters, just laughs. They came down here hunting a boy, Kaelen says, his eyes glowing with sovereign authority. He mounts Goliath Shadowbear's massive back. Let's show them what they actually found. And that is the perfect place to wrap up Chapter 2. The Ironblood Coalition has no idea what they just walked into. Will Kaelen wipe out the mercenaries, or will he capture them to send a message back to Duke Valerius? If you want to see Kaelen unleash his shadow army on his family's enemies, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Fate Library, and let me know in the comments. Welcome back to Fate Library. If you thought Kaelen was going to sit back and play city builder while his enemies searched for him, you clearly don't know our boy yet. In the last chapter, Kaelen claimed the ruined underground city of Noctis, took down a level 45 calamity bear, turned it into his first commander-tier summon named Goliath, and got his blacksmith up and running. But just as things were settling down, the system warned him that a squad of Ironblood mercenaries had entered the abyss. They're looking for Kaelen's body, and more importantly, his family seal. Let's cut to the mercenaries. A squad of 12 heavily armed, level 20 elite trackers is slowly making their way down the treacherous, miasma-filled cliffs of the Abyssal Wilds. They are nervous, and they should be. The abyss is famous for swallowing S-rank hunters whole. The captain, a grizzled veteran named Thorn, holds up a glowing tracking crystal. It's faintly pulsing, attuned to the mana signature of the Vane family seal. Keep your eyes peeled, Thorn barks at his men. The Duke wants that ring, and he wants confirmation that the Vane kid is dead. He couldn't have survived the fall, but the monsters down here might have swallowed the ring. If we have to cut open every beast in this chasm, we will. The mercenaries grumble in agreement, tightening their grip on their enchanted swords. They think they are the apex predators here. They have no idea they are walking straight into a kill box. High above them, hidden perfectly in the shadows of a massive stalactite, Kaelen watches. Thanks to his abyssal stealth and his new level 15 stats, he is completely invisible to them. He isn't wearing his torn, soot-stained noble clothes anymore. Thanks to the Noctis blacksmith, he's wearing a sleek, lightweight set of abyssal iron armor. It's pitch black, absorbs light, and boosts his agility. He looks less like a fallen noble and more like the Grim Reaper. 12 targets, Kaelen mutters to himself. All level 20, highly coordinated. If they lock me down in close combat, I'm dead, he grins. Good thing I have no intention of fighting fair. Kaelen raises his left hand. The Shadowweave bow materializes, but it looks different now. Because the skill leveled up to level 3, the bow is larger. The arrows it forms are laced with a crackling, necrotic energy. He draws the string back, targeting the mercenary walking at the very back of the formation. F-whip, the sound is barely a whisper. The shadow arrow crosses the 100-foot gap in a fraction of a second. It buries itself into the back of the mercenary's neck, slipping right between his helmet and chest plate. The man drops without a single sound. You have slain a LV, 20 Ironblood mercenary, experience gained. The mercenary walking in front of him doesn't even notice. Kaelen draws again, F-whip, another drops, then a third. It takes Captain Thorn 30 seconds to realize his rear guard is gone. He spins around, seeing 3 of his men lying face down in the dirt, black smoke rising from their wounds. Ambush, Thorn roars, drawing a massive broadsword. Form up, shields out, where's the caster? The mercenaries instantly snap into a defensive circle, raising heavy iron shields and scanning the darkness. But there is nothing there. Just the eerie, bioluminescent glow of the mushrooms. Show yourself, you coward, Thorn yells into the abyss. A cold, echoing voice answers from everywhere and nowhere at once. You came to my kingdom looking for a corpse, Thorn. I'm just giving you what you asked for. Thorn's eyes widen. He recognizes that voice. Kaelen Vane, impossible. No one survives the fall. I didn't survive, Kaelen's voice echoes, laced with sovereign authority. I evolved. Before Thorn can process that, the ground beneath the mercenaries begins to boil. The shadows cast by their own bodies suddenly elongate and snap upward. Kaelen's shadow wolves erupt directly from the mercenaries' blind spots. The formation shatters instantly. The wolves, now buffed by Kaelen's new authority stat, tear into the armored men. It's absolute chaos. Swords clash against shadowclaws and screams echo. But these are elite mercenaries. After the initial shock, they rally. Thorn cleaves a shadow wolf in half with a glowing aura strike. They're just shadow constructs. Focus your aura, break their cores, he commands. 2 more wolves are dispelled by the mercenaries' coordinated attacks. Kaelen, watching from above, just smirks. He isn't worried about losing wolves, he just needed them distracted. Time for the main event, Kaelen whispers. He snaps his fingers. From the deep darkness of the cavern tunnel, a rhythmic, earth-shaking thud, thud, begins to approach. The mercenaries freeze. Even the shadow wolves back away. Out of the darkness steps Goliath, the level 45 abyssal armored bear, now made entirely of shifting obsidian shadows. Thorn's jaw literally drops. By the gods, what is that thing? Before we see Goliath turn these elite mercenaries into paste, take 1 second to obliterate that like button and subscribe to Fate Library. Goliath doesn't roar. He doesn't need to. He simply charges. A mercenary raises his heavy shield, bracing for impact. Goliath swats him with a massive paw. The shield crumples like tin foil, and the mercenary is launched 50 feet into the air. He crashes into a stalactite with a sickening crunch. The formation breaks entirely. Pure panic sets in. You can't use tactics against a monster that outlevels you by 25 points and is immune to fear. Kaelen provides covering fire, teleporting from shadow to shadow, sniping anyone who tries to cast a spell or coordinate an attack. Within 3 minutes, the 12-man elite squad is reduced to just 1 man, Captain Thorn. He is on his knees, his sword broken, bleeding from a dozen cuts. He is completely surrounded by regenerating shadow wolves, with Goliath standing right in front of him, breathing cold, necrotic air into his face. Kaelen steps out of Goliath's shadow, his boots clicking softly against the stone. He looks down at the broken captain. Vane, Thorn spits, coughing up blood. You think this changes anything? You're just one kid playing with dark magic in a hole. Duke Valerius has an army of thousands. When he realizes we didn't report back, he'll send a battalion down here. Kaelen squats down so he is eye level with Thorn. Let him send them. I need more building materials anyway. But tell me, Thorn, why is Valerius so desperate to confirm my death right now? What is he rushing? Thorn glares at him, sealing his lips. Kaelen sighs. I was hoping you wouldn't say that. It's so much easier to get answers from the dead. Before Thorn can react, Kaelen draws an iron dagger he forged in Noctis and drives it straight through the captain's heart. Thorn slumps over dead. Kaelen stands up, wiping the blade. He doesn't feel any guilt. This is war. Kaelen looks around at the 12 dead mercenaries. He opens his system interface. Shadow extraction capacity, 1550. Time to upgrade the army, Kaelen says. He holds out his hand. Arise. The shadows beneath all 12 mercenaries violently erupt. The process is faster now. From the corpses, 12 humanoid figures rise. They are clad in pitch-black, smoky armor, holding shadow replicas of their original weapons, swords, shields, and even a mage staff. They drop to one knee in perfect unison, bowing their heads to Kaelen. Extraction successful. 11 elite shadow infantry acquired, 1 shadow captain acquired. Kaelen walks up to the shadow captain, the resurrected form of Thorn. Unlike the wolves, the humanoid shadows possess higher intelligence. They retain fragments of their past memories and skills. They can't speak, but they can communicate via the mental link. Tell me everything Duke Valerius is planning, Kaelen commands through the link. Images and thoughts flood into Kaelen's mind. He sees the Duke's war room, he sees maps, and then he sees a massive, swirling purple vortex. It's an abyssal gate. The Duke isn't just trying to secure his power. A massive S-rank dungeon gate has opened on the northern border of his territory. The Duke was rushing to eliminate Kaelen, so he could fully mobilize his army to the north, without worrying about political loose ends. Kaelen's eyes widen, an abyssal gate. In the upper world they are disasters, but to Kaelen, the Lord of the Abyss, it's a backdoor. It's a direct, unblockable highway straight into the heart of Duke Valerius's territory. He thinks the gate is his biggest problem, Kaelen says, a terrifying smile spreading. He turns to look at his army. 50 shadow soldiers, led by a calamity-class bear and a squad of elite infantry, standing at attention in the ancient ruined city. He has no idea the monsters coming out of that gate aren't the disaster. I am. Kaelen opens the kingdom building interface. Current resources. Hi, would you like to construct the abyssal barracks and begin researching spatial gate anchoring? Confirm, Kaelen says. He isn't just going to wait for the Duke's army to come to him. He's going to build a bridge straight to the surface. And that is where we are ending Chapter 3. The progression is absolutely insane right now. Kaelen just acquired his first human-tier soldiers. He learned how to use their memories and discovered a literal backdoor to invade his enemies. Duke Valerius is playing checkers, and Kaelen is playing 4D chess. Will Kaelen be able to hack the abyssal gate and launch his invasion before the Duke's army seals it? You'll have to wait for Chapter 4 to find out. If you are loving this story, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Fate Library, and leave a comment telling me what Kaelen should name his new shadow captain. Welcome back to Fate Library. We are diving straight back into the abyss with Kaelen Vane. In the last chapter, our boy turned a squad of elite assassins into his own personal shadow infantry. He discovered a dungeon gate opening on the surface and decided he wasn't going to wait around in the dark anymore. He initiated the construction of the abyssal barracks and began researching something called spatial gate anchoring. Today, we're going to see what happens when the Lord of the Abyss decides to pay the surface world a visit. But hacking into an S-rank dungeon gate from the bottom of the world isn't cheap. The system informs Kaelen that anchoring the gate to Noctis will require a staggering 100,000 high-grade mana crystals. Kaelen currently has about 1,000. It's time for a farming montage. But Kaelen is a sovereign now. He doesn't need to do the dirty work himself. Goliath, Kaelen says, looking at the massive abyssal armored bear. Take the shadow captain and the infantry. Clear every dungeon within a 20-mile radius. Bring me everything. And oh boy, they do. We get an epic sequence of Goliath and the newly named shadow captain, Vanguard, absolutely wrecking the local ecosystem. Vanguard uses his past life's tactical knowledge to set up flawless ambushes, while Goliath acts as a living siege engine. They raid a nest of abyssal worms, crush a colony of crystal spiders, and loot an ancient elemental temple. Because Kaelen shares an EXP link with his summons, he is just sitting on his throne in Noctis, watching his level bar fill up passively. Your summons have slain a LV, 35 abyssal worm, level up. Your summons have cleared a B-rank resource dungeon, level up. By the end of the week, Kaelen has hit level 25. His Shadowweave bow is now level 4. It grants his arrows armor-piercing and explosive properties. And more importantly, the central plaza of Noctis is overflowing with glowing blue mana crystals. The system chimes in. 100,000 mana crystals collected. Spatial gate anchor is ready for activation. Kaelen stands up from his throne, clad in his pitch-black abyssal iron armor. His army of 50 elite shadow monsters stands at attention before him. It's time to go home, he says. He slams his hand down onto the control terminal in the plaza. The 100,000 crystals shatter instantly. Their mana surges into the ancient ruins of the city. A massive, swirling vortex of pure, dark energy tears open in the center of Noctis. The connection is made, before we step through that portal and see the chaos unfold. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to Fate Library. We are bringing the hype today, and you don't want to miss the look on the Duke's face when Kaelen crashes his party. Let's cut to the surface world, specifically the northern border of Duke Valerius's territory. It is a bloodbath. An S-rank dungeon break has occurred, meaning the monsters have breached the gate and are pouring into the human world. The sky is stained red. Thousands of armored soldiers from the Ironblood Coalition are holding the line behind a massive defensive wall, but they are losing badly. Leading the defense is General Kael'kar, the same scar-faced knight who cornered Kaelen at the edge of the abyss in Chapter 1. Kael'kar is swinging his ore-infused broadsword, cleaving through low-level goblins and orcs, but he is sweating. "Hold the line, if the wall falls, the Duke's capital is next," he screams. But then a deafening roar echoes from the center of the gate. A massive, level 50 fire drake steps out of the portal. It's covered in magma-infused scales and breathes a stream of liquid fire that instantly vaporizes a dozen Ironblood knights. The morale of the human army shatters. Soldiers drop their weapons and start running. General Kael'kar stares at the drake in absolute horror. He knows he can't fight a calamity tier monster. He is only level 35. The defense has officially failed. But just as the fire drake inhales to unleash a second, wall-destroying breath, something weird happens. The swirling red energy of the S-rank gate suddenly stutters. The red light shifts, turning into a deep, void-like purple. The temperature on the battlefield drops by 20 degrees. The monsters pouring out of the gate suddenly freeze, looking back at the portal in confusion. General Kael'kar watches as the portal ripples, and then a massive obsidian-armored paw steps out. It's Goliath. The shadow bear lets out a roar that completely drowns out the fire drake. The human soldiers watch in stunned silence as a 2-story-tall, undead bear charges out of the monster portal. But instead of attacking the humans, it tackles the fire drake mid-breath. The drake's fire blasts harmlessly into the sky as Goliath bites down on its neck. But Goliath isn't alone. Kaelen's shadow infantry, led by Vanguard, pours out of the gate in perfect, terrifying formation. They don't charge the humans, they charge the dungeon monsters. Why? Because to Kaelen, these monsters aren't a threat. They are free EXP, and they are premium extraction targets. The battlefield turns into a three-way war, but it's entirely one-sided. Vanguard and his elite shadow squad carve through the orc and goblin hordes. Since they are shadows, the monsters' crude weapons pass right through them. Every time a monster falls, the shadows beneath them boil, and a new, shadowy version of the monster rises up. The human soldiers can only watch as the enemy army is systematically butchered and converted into a silent army of darkness. General Kael'kar is trembling. He has never seen magic like this. Is it a high-tier summoner from the capital? He stammers. The human soldiers start cheering. They think a legendary savior has arrived to rescue them. They start chanting praises to the gods. They think the war is won. And then the real boss steps onto the field. The purple gate ripples one last time, and Kaelen Vane walks through. He is wearing his sleek, pitch-black abyssal iron armor. His face is hidden behind a menacing, featureless visor. He casually walks past the brutal brawl between Goliath and the fire drake. He raises his left hand. The Shadowweave bow materializes, crackling with level 4 necrotic lightning. He doesn't aim it at the monsters. He turns, his visor locking onto the command tent on top of the defensive wall. He locks onto General Kael'kar. Kael'kar squints, trying to get a look at this mysterious savior. The armor is unfamiliar. The magic is terrifying. But as Kaelen reaches up and slowly retracts his visor, Kael'kar's heart completely stops. He recognizes those eyes. He recognizes the face of the boy he forced off a cliff just weeks ago. "Vane!" Kael'kar shrieks, his voice cracking. "It's impossible. He's dead. Shoot him. Everyone aim at the summoner." But the human soldiers are confused. Why is their general ordering them to attack the man who just saved them? The hesitation is all Kaelen needs. Kaelen draws the bowstring back. The purple arrow condenses, humming with explosive energy. "Hello, Kael'kar," Kaelen says. Even from 100 yards away, his voice echoes directly in the general's mind. "I told you I'd see you in hell, but I decided to bring it to you instead." Kaelen releases the string, THOOM. The sound is like a cannon firing. The shadow arrow crosses the battlefield, leaving a trail of distorted air. It slams directly into the command tent, detonating in a massive shockwave of necrotic energy. The tent, the guards, and the wall are instantly vaporized. The human soldiers stop cheering. Dead silence falls over the remaining troops. Kaelen lowers his bow. Goliath finishes crushing the fire drake's skull and takes his place behind Kaelen, along with the Shadow Captain and 50 other terrifying summons. The message is clear. Kaelen isn't here to save Duke Valerius's territory, he's here to conquer it. Kaelen opens his system interface. Target slain. You have killed General Kaelkar, LV, 35, level up, title unlocked, the Conqueror. Kaelen looks at the terrified, trembling human soldiers on the wall. He raises his hand, and his voice booms across the battlefield. Lay down your weapons, Kaelen commands. Duke Valerius is a traitor and a murderer. This territory belongs to the Vane family once again. Anyone who stands in my way will join my army, as a shadow. To prove his point, he turns to the smoldering crater. He points at the ashes. Arise! The shadows violently tear themselves from the rubble. The ghostly black smoke figure of General Kaelkar rises, his face twisted in silent agony, now a slave to the boy he tried to kill. And that absolute mic drop moment is where we are ending Chapter 4. Kaelen has officially returned to the surface, and he brought an apocalypse with him. Duke Valerius is going to absolutely lose his mind when he hears about this. If you are hyped to see Kaelen march his new army straight to the Duke's front door, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Leave a comment with your favorite moment so far and subscribe to Fate Library. The revenge is only going to get sweeter from here. See you in Chapter 5. Welcome back to Fate Library. The hype is officially off the charts. Last time on Kaelen's revenge tour, our boy used an S-rank dungeon gate as his personal backdoor. He crashed Duke Valerius's defensive line, turned the Duke's commanding general into a shadow puppet, and basically claimed the northern border as his own. Today, we get to see the fallout. Duke Valerius is about to learn that you can push a kid off a cliff, but you can't stop him from climbing back up. Let's pick up right where we left off. The battlefield is dead silent. 3,000 soldiers of the Ironblood Coalition are staring at Kaelen. He is flanked by an undead calamity bear, 50 elite shadow monsters, and the literal ghost of their former commander, General Kaelkar. The soldiers drop their weapons. The clatter of iron hitting the dirt echoes across the scorched earth. They fall to their knees. They aren't surrendering to an enemy nation. They are surrendering to an apex predator. Kaelen looks out over the kneeling army. System notification. You have gained the fealty of 3,142 human subjects. Kingdom building, surface territory expansion unlocked. Your authority stat has increased significantly. Good choice, Kaelen says. Vanguard, the Shadow Captain steps forward. Organize the men, set up a perimeter around the Abyssal Gate. This is our forward operating base now. While the Shadow soldiers begin ordering the terrified humans around, Kaelen walks over to the massive corpse of the Fire Drake. It's a level 50 calamity tier monster. Kaelen places his hand on its magma-hot scales. Arise, he commands. The shadows erupt, swallowing the massive dragon. When the smoke clears, a gargantuan shadow drake stands before him. Its scales are made of pure darkness, dripping with blue, ethereal fire. Commander tier shadow acquired, Abyssal Fire Drake. Kaelen grins. I'll call you Inferno. He now has 2 commander tier summons. Goliath for ground superiority, and Inferno for absolute air dominance. But Kaelen knows Duke Valerius isn't going to just let him keep this territory. The northern border is less than a 2-day march from the Duke's capital city. Word is already spreading. Before we see the Duke's reaction, take 1 second to hit that like button and subscribe to Fate Library. Kaelen's army is looking unstoppable, but the Ironblood Coalition still has a few nasty tricks up its sleeve. Let's head to the capital. Cut to the Duke's palace. Duke Valerius is a massive, imposing man in his 50s, known for his ruthless tactics and epic-grade Iron Tyrant class. He is currently sitting on his throne, listening to a scout who managed to flee the northern border. The scout is trembling so hard he can barely speak. The general is dead, my lord, the boy. Vane, He came out of the gate. He commands an army of undead monsters. He took the border. Duke Valerius shatters his wine glass in his grip. His face twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. Kaelen Vane, I should have gone to the abyss and cut his head off myself. The Duke stands up, his epic-grade aura suffocating everyone in the throne room. If he wants a war, I'll give him a massacre. Mobilize the royal guard and awaken the Ironblood Colossus. The generals in the room gasp. The Ironblood Colossus is a relic from the ancient wars, a massive 70-foot-tall golem made of enchanted steel. It's completely immune to magic and requires the mana of 50 mages just to operate. It is the ultimate siege weapon, capable of leveling entire cities by simply walking through them. The Duke isn't taking any chances. He is bringing a nuke to a knife fight. Back at the northern border, Kaelen is sitting on the edge of the defensive wall, his legs dangling over the side. He is currently sharing senses with Inferno, the shadow drake, who is flying high above the clouds, scouting the road to the capital. Through the drake's eyes, Kaelen sees the Duke's army marching. It's a terrifying sight, 10,000 heavily armored soldiers. A battalion of battle mages in the center, and towering over all of them is the Ironblood Colossus. Kaelen opens his eyes. He doesn't look panicked, he looks annoyed. 10,000 men and a giant toy robot, Kaelen mutters. He really thinks numbers matter against me. Vanguard, the shadow captain, sends a mental ping of concern. The humanoid shadow remembers the Colossus. He knows that normal weapons and magic don't work against it. I know, Vanguard, Kaelen replies out loud. That golem is a problem. If it gets to the gate, it could crush our base. So we just don't let it get here. Kaelen stands up and stretches. He looks at his shadowy bow. At level 4, it has a range limit determined entirely by his mana pool and his line of sight. Thanks to Inferno acting as an eye in the sky, Kaelen has a perfect top-down view of the enemy army, which is currently 10 miles away. Let's do some pest control, Kaelen says. He activates Abyssal Stealth and melds into the shadows, teleporting to the absolute highest point of the defensive wall. He summons his bow. The purple necrotic energy crackles wildly. Through Inferno's vision, Kaelen locks onto the center of the Duke's formation. He spots the 50 battle mages marching in a tight cluster. They are the ones supplying mana to the Colossus. Without them, the giant robot is just a really heavy statue. Kaelen draws the bowstring back. He doesn't just form one arrow. He activates a new sub-skill he unlocked at level 25, Skill, Shadow Scattershot. The single purple arrow splits into 50 smaller, needle-like arrows of condensed darkness. He aims at a 45-degree angle into the sky. Thwip, 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 thwip. 50 shadow arrows launch into the stratosphere. They vanish into the clouds. 10 miles away, the Duke's army is marching confidently. The battle mages are chatting, arrogant and secure in the center of 10,000 soldiers. Suddenly, the sky darkens. A terrifying whistling sound cuts through the air, before anyone can even yell a warning. 50 black streaks of light crash down from the heavens like a localized meteor shower. The accuracy is absolute. Every single arrow finds its mark. 50 battle mages are instantly pinned to the earth, their mana cores shattered by the necrotic energy. Total chaos erupts in the Duke's army. Soldiers are screaming, looking around for an enemy that isn't there. Sniper, a commander yells. Shields up, where did that come from? Back on the wall, 10 miles away, Kaelen lowers his bow and smirks. You have slain 50 elite battle mages, experience gained. But Kaelen's smile fades quickly. Through Inferno's eyes, he watches the Ironblood Colossus. With the mages dead, the giant golem should have powered down, but it doesn't. Instead, the red glowing runes on its steel armor flare with a blinding, toxic green light. Duke Valerius, riding on a heavily armored warhorse near the front, just laughs. You think I didn't plan for assassins, you little rat. The Duke mutters, knowing Kaelen is somehow watching. The Duke raises a glowing green crystal. The mages were just a battery. This is a soul core, powered by the souls of every civilian in your former territory. Kaelen's eyes widen in sheer horror and absolute rage. The Duke slaughtered the innocent people of the Vane territory and turned their souls into fuel. The Ironblood Colossus lets out a mechanical, screeching roar. It doesn't just march anymore. It begins to sprint. A 70-foot-tall, magic-immune steel titan is now barreling down the highway, covering miles in minutes, heading straight for Kaelen's base. The system flashes red. Warning, the Ironblood Colossus LV-60 boss is rapidly approaching. Immunity, all magic. Immunity, all physical damage below S rank. Kaelen's shadow infantry and his human soldiers brace for impact on the wall. They can hear the earth-shaking footsteps approaching. Boom, boom, boom. Kaelen's aura explodes. The shadows around him turn into a violent, raging storm. The playful, arrogant sniper is gone. The Lord of the Abyss is pissed off. Goliath, Inferno, Vanguard, Kaelen says, his voice vibrating with sovereign fury. Rally the army, open the gates. The massive steel gates of the defensive wall grind open. Kaelen doesn't stand behind his walls to defend. He marches out onto the open plains, his pitch-black armor absorbing the sunlight. Behind him, 50 elite shadow monsters, 3,000 human soldiers, a calamity bear, and a shadow drake fan out into battle formation. The Ironblood Colossus crests the horizon, followed by 10,000 screaming enemy soldiers. It's a battle of absolute apocalyptic proportions. Kaelen draws his shadow-weave bow, pouring every ounce of his fury into it. If magic doesn't work and physical attacks don't work, he is just going to have to hit it hard enough to break the rules. And that is the epic cliffhanger where we are ending Chapter 5. Kaelen's sniper tactics were flawless, but Duke Valerius is a monster. The clash between Kaelen's shadow army and the Ironblood Colossus is going to be the most insane fight of the series so far. If you are as hyped as I am for this boss fight, you absolutely must hit that like button and subscribe to Fate Library. Leave a comment telling me how you think Kaelen is going to pierce magic-immune armor. The war has officially begun. See you in Chapter 6. Welcome back to Fate Library for the grand finale of this massive 1.3-hour epic. If you've stuck with Kaelen from the bottom of the Abyssal Wilds all the way back to the surface, you are a true legend. In the last chapter, Kaelen dropped 50 battle mages with a single sniper strike. But Duke Valerius countered by activating the Ironblood Colossus, a 70-foot-tall, magic-immune siege golem. Powered by the souls of innocent people, Kaelen isn't hiding behind his walls anymore. He marched his entire army out onto the open plains. It's time for war. The two armies clash like two tidal waves crashing into each other. On one side, you have 10,000 highly trained, heavily armored soldiers of the Ironblood Coalition. On the other side, you have Vanguard leading 3,000 human defectors, 50 elite shadow monsters, and a level 50 Abyssal Fire Drake providing close air support. The battlefield is absolute bedlam. Vanguard's tactical genius is on full display. He commands the shadow infantry to form a spearhead, driving right into the center of the Duke's formation. Because the shadow soldiers don't feel pain or fatigue, they don't break line. Whenever an Ironblood soldier manages to strike a shadow down, it just reforms seconds later, costing Kaelen a fraction of his massive mana pool. Inferno, the shadow drake, swoops down from the clouds, unleashing torrents of blue, necrotic fire. The fire doesn't burn the flesh, it directly attacks the mana cores of the enemy soldiers, causing entire platoons to drop dead in their tracks. And every time they drop, Kaelen uses shadow extraction. The Duke's army is shrinking, and Kaelen's army is growing exponentially right in the middle of the fight. But then the Ironblood Colossus enters the fray. Boom, boom, boom. The massive steel golem steps right on top of Vanguard's spearhead formation. With a single, casual swing of its house-sized steel fist, it obliterates 100 human soldiers and violently disperses 20 shadow monsters. Kaelen feels the mana drain hit him like a physical punch. Resurrecting 20 shadows at once takes a toll. He looks up at the Colossus. Its red, glowing runes are pulsating with the toxic green light of the soul core. It raises its foot to stomp on Goliath, the shadow bear. "Not today, you oversized tin can," Kaelen snarls. Kaelen teleports via the shadows, materializing directly on top of Goliath's head. He draws his shadow-weave bow to its absolute limit, activating overcharged shot and armor piercing. He aims directly at the Colossus's chest plate, THOOM. The void black arrow crosses the gap in a microsecond and slams into the golem's chest. But just like before, there is a loud metallic clang. The arrow shatters into a million pieces of harmless black smoke. The system notification confirms Kaelen's worst fear. Target is immune to magic damage. Target is immune to physical damage below S rank. Attack ineffective. The Colossus doesn't even flinch. It swings its massive arm down at Kaelen and Goliath. Kaelen is forced to teleport away, and Goliath takes the hit, being launched backward into the defensive wall with a bone-shattering crash. Kaelen lands on the ground, panting. He can't pierce the armor, he can't use magic. If this keeps up, the Colossus will slowly grind his entire army into dust. And Kaelen will run out of mana. Duke Valerius, watching from a safe distance on a ridge, laughs maniacally. "Do you see now, boy?" the Duke yells. "You are nothing but a rat playing with parlor tricks." The Ironblood Colossus is invincible. Before Kaelen pulls off the most big-brain, high-IQ play of the entire series. To take down this invincible boss, you know what to do. Obliterate that like button. Subscribe to Fate Library and hit the bell so you don't miss part 2 of this epic journey. Let's get back to the slaughter. Kaelen stares at the Colossus. "Invincible," he mutters. "Right, it's a machine. And machines have joints, they have gaps, if I can't break the armor from the outside." Kaelen's eyes glow with a terrifying realization. "I'll just break it from the inside." Kaelen activates Abyssal Stealth, completely vanishing from the battlefield. The Colossus, lacking a target, continues its rampage on the Shadow Infantry. But Kaelen isn't running away. He is sprinting right at the giant golem's legs, moving from shadow to shadow. He reaches the Colossus's massive heel. As the golem lifts its leg for another stomp, Kaelen sees it. The microscopic gap between the enchanted steel plates covering the ankle joint. For a normal person, it's impossible to exploit, but Kaelen isn't normal. He is the Shadow Sovereign. "Merge," Kaelen commands himself. He doesn't jump onto the golem. He literally dives into the shadow cast by the overlapping armor plates. The world goes pitch black. Kaelen is now inside the internal mechanisms of the Ironblood Colossus. It's a terrifying labyrinth of grinding gears, massive mana conduits, and shifting steel plates. They could crush him instantly if he steps out of Abyssal Stealth. The heat is unbearable, and the toxic green light of the soul core is pulsing from somewhere far above him. Kaelen begins the climb. He moves like a phantom, bypassing all the internal defense mechanisms, because they simply can't detect a being made of pure shadow. He climbs up the leg into the torso, and finally he reaches the chest cavity. In the center of the chest cavity hangs the soul core. It is a massive, jagged green crystal, roughly the size of a carriage. Inside the crystal, Kaelen can see them. Hundreds of ghostly, agonizing faces swirling around in a tormenting cycle. The souls of the Vane territory's citizens, the people Kaelen's father swore to protect. Kaelen's blood runs cold, and then boils with an unmatched rage. He drops his Abyssal Stealth and steps onto a gear platform right in front of the core. "I'm sorry it took me so long," Kaelen whispers to the trapped souls. He summons his shadowy bow. He doesn't need to pierce armor in here. The core is completely exposed. He draws the bow back, channeling every single ounce of his rage and sorrow into the arrow. "Overcharged shot," he roars. He releases the string from point-blank range. The void-black arrow slams into the green crystal. For a split second, time seems to stop. And then the soul core detonates. A shockwave of pure, blinding white light erupts from the chest of the Colossus. The thousands of trapped souls are violently released, swirling up into the sky in a massive pillar of energy before finally fading away into peace. On the outside, the Ironblood Colossus freezes mid-step. The red runes on its armor flicker and die. The 70-foot-tall golem lists to the side, and then comes crashing down to the earth like a felled redwood tree. Shaking the entire continent, the battlefield goes completely silent. The Duke's army stares in absolute pant-sweating terror. Their invincible god machine is dead. From the smoking wreckage of the Colossus's chest, a figure steps out. It's Kaelen, his armor battered but his eyes burning with sovereign authority. You have destroyed the Ironblood Colossus, LV 60 boss, level up X5. Kaelen hits level 30 instantly, but he doesn't even look at the notifications. He turns his head, locking eyes with Duke Valerius, who is sitting on his horse on the distant ridge. The Duke is pale, his trump card is gone, his army is surrounded by regenerating shadow monsters and defectors. "Our retreat," the Duke screams, yanking his horse's reins. "Everyone fall back to the capital now." But Kaelen just laughs. It's a dark, echoing sound that chills every human on the battlefield to the bone. "You don't get to run, Valerius," Kaelen says. Kaelen doesn't shoot an arrow. He doesn't need to. He taps into his new level 30 abilities. He reaches his hand out toward the downed Colossus. "You used my people to power this machine. Now it belongs to me. Arise." The shadows on the battlefield go absolutely berserk. This isn't just extracting a bear or a dragon. The darkness swallows the entire 70-foot-tall golem. The steel twists and shifts, turning into pitch-black obsidian. The dead red runes ignite with Kaelen's signature blue, necrotic fire. With an earth-shattering roar, the Shadow Colossus pulls itself up from the dirt. Extraction successful. Siege Tier Shadow acquired, Abyssal Colossus LV 60. Duke Valerius is hyperventilating. He spurs his horse, desperately trying to flee. But the Shadow Colossus takes one massive step, covering the distance in seconds, and slams its giant fist down right in front of the Duke, creating a crater the size of a house. Throwing the Duke from his horse, the Duke grovels in the dirt, his fancy armor scuffed and broken. Kaelen teleports out of the shadow cast by the Colossus's fist, landing gracefully in front of the fallen Duke. "Wait, Vane, please," the Duke begs, holding his hands up. "I'll give you the territory back. I'll give you gold, artifacts, anything you want." Kaelen looks down at him with absolute disgust. "You took my family, you took my home, you tortured my people." Kaelen draws his forged iron dagger. "I don't want your gold, Valerius, I want your life, and then I want your shadow." Before the Duke can scream, Kaelen drives the dagger into his chest, ending the tyrant's life once and for all. Target slain, Duke Valerius LV 40 killed, vengeance quest complete. Title acquired, the true sovereign. Kaelen stands up, looking out over the battlefield. The remaining Ironblood soldiers throw their weapons down in absolute surrender. The northern border is officially his. He has a level 60 siege golem, a calamity bear, a fire drake, elite infantry, and a human army that worships him like a god. He has reclaimed his family's territory, but as he looks toward the distant capital city, a new system notification pops up. Warning, the Holy Arcanum Empire has detected the use of abyssal magic. Crusade initiated. 100,000 paladins are marching on your location. Kaelen just smirks, his eyes glowing blue. Good, let them come. Noctis is hungry. And that is the epic, massive conclusion to part one of the Shadow Sovereign's journey. Kaelen got his revenge, built his kingdom, and now he is going to war with the entire continent. If you want me to make part 2, where Kaelen defends his new empire against 100,000 Holy Paladins, you absolutely must destroy the like button, leave a comment saying, "We want part 2." And subscribe to Fate Library so you don't miss the upload. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next epic adventure.